Woodbury County Zoning Commission for Monday, June 28th, 2020. Me to repeat that, Dan.
Okay.
There's a delay in a response. This is the Woodbury County Zoning Commission, Monday, June 28th, 2021, at 6 p.m. And calling to order. We need a roll call.
Okay. Just to report, the four commissioners are present in the room. Corey Meister, Tom Bride, Barb Parker, and Jeffrey O'Toole. And Chris Elmerzant is over the phone. So we have a full quorum here at the board.
Okay, that's item number 2 on the agenda. Item number 3 is public comments on matters not on the agenda.
There is no public present in the room, and Bill Holland is on the phone. So I just want to make that clear as well.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 4, which is approval of the minutes for May 24th, 2021. Any corrections? If not, I'll accept the removal of approval of the minutes.
A motion to,
We would need a motion in a second. Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Corey Meister, a second by Jeffrey O'Toole.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, sounds like the approval of the minutes of May 24th, 2021 has passed unanimously. Okay, the first item of business then, item number 5, is a review of conditional use permit borrow pit of Mid-American Energy Company. Dan, do you want to read into the record information concerning this conditional use permit?
Yes. The Mid-American Energy Company requests to establish a temporary borrow pit to remove earthen material and resource extraction. This proposal is part of a multi-year project involving their Ashtown impoundment system. There are several phases of the project that commenced back in 2015. On June 1st of 2020, the Woodbury County Board of Adjustment approved a conditional use permit for a temporary borrow pit on parcel number 8747302000005. Similar to the 2020 proposal, this request is for the property located on parcel number 87473110008, which is in the northeast of section 31 on government lot 1 in the Liberty Township, Township 87 North, Range 47 West. The property is located just west of the Port Neal Circle and located in the General Industrial Zoning District on the Mid-American Energy's grounds. A portion of the property is located in the floodplain zone AE. However, the proposed territory of the borrow pit is not affected by the floodplain. This borrow pit proposal was properly noticed in the Sioux City Journal's legal section. The property owners within 500 feet were notified via letter. There were just 4 property owners, Mid-American included, within that territory. The appropriate stakeholders were all contacted and asked to make comment on this proposal. Based on all the stakeholder comments, we found no issues that would get in the way of the approval of this procedure. County engineer Mark Knarr, I understand, visited the site, and his statement, he has no issues with it, and he found that the road is adequate. to sustain the project. The applicant answered all the questions on the application, and the staff analysis came through and sees this as a project that could be approved. One item for clarification, if you look at the parcel real closely, it looks like it's landlocked there on Port Neal Circle. However, access to this parcel is through a formal easement with Nutriflow. That's on page 8 of your packet, which clarifies that they have the full right to use their property in this such manner. And with that said, staff recommends approval of this conditional use permit. That's all I have, Chairperson Zelmer's now.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any commissioners that have any questions at this point?
This is Jeff O'Toole. Just for verification, will this be backfilled at some point, or will this be a continual hole in the ground, and we'll expect to have water in it most of the time?
Yes, it will not be backfilled. Highly likely that it'll have water at the bottom. Mid-America Energy will more than likely pursue seeding with it to make it most beneficial.
You kind of broke out there. Can you?
Yeah, Bill, could you repeat the last part? You're kind of cut off a little bit.
Alrighty. The Mid-America on the other borrow sites has aggressively pursued seeding and use stabilization plan, and they will anticipate doing the same for this. And so it's probably going to be likely water in the bottom, depending upon how much excavation gets taken out of it.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions from the commissioners? So this sounds like to me, is this a completely separate conditional use permit? We don't have a sunset clause on the prior conditional use permit?
To answer that, it's specific to the parcel.
Okay.
Last year, this is a similar type of application as last year, but they decided to, because it's a multi-phase project, go ahead and bring it back to the board a year later. So they didn't do it as a clumped together project. So it's very tailored to this parcel.
Okay. Looks like we have approval from all the other entities, including Mark Nara from the engineering office.
Yes, that's correct.
Looks like it meets all the criteria, criteria 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Do we want to go through every one of those? Chris?
I'm sorry, go ahead and say that again, Barb.
Do you want to go through each and every one of those conditional use criteria? Thank you.
I really don't see a need for it, as we've approved prior conditional use permits for the same use, and it seems to meet those criteria needs, unless someone has a question or concern.
I agree with you on that. This is Barb. I don't think we need to go through each criteria.
Anyone else, commissioners?
good with it?
Yeah, this Tom, I agree with that too. I think that we can handle it and take them all as a whole instead of looking at each one individually.
So you don't have any questions?
No.
Okay, we're good. What are we doing?
Other commissioners? I'm hearing no questions, no comments, or no concerns. Are we ready to make a motion if that's the case?
I'll make a motion to, is there a written motion here?
Yeah, on page 3, bottom 3.
I motion to recommend approval to the Board of Adjustment to use parcel number 874731100008 as a temporary borrow pit. Ms. O'Toole.
I hear a motion. Do we have a second?
This is Tom and I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. If there's any further discussion at this time? Okay, I'm hearing none. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. It sounds like the conditional use permit is unanimously approved.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So that means the next item on the agenda is a public comment on matters not on the agenda. I'm hearing none. Move us on to item number 7 is commissioner comments or inquiry. That leads me to a question concerning commercial wind energy. That was brought to my attention by the Woodbury County Conservation Board and Los Hills Alliance. Dave, do you know what I'm talking about? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Can you give us some information on that, please?
Yeah, basically what we did is we presented the board of supervisors with our proposed wind farm ordinance. And when I set the date, when I asked the board of supervisors to set the date for the public hearing, Supervisor Mark Monson asked if we had language in there for protections for Lutz Hills. We didn't have specific language for that particular landform area, but after thinking about it, we believe that it makes sense to add that language in there. And to be honest with you, when we reviewed all of those wind farm ordinances across the state, we used the Kossuth County one because they were deemed the most conservative or the most restrictive ordinance. And they had a 600 feet setback distance for conservation areas. And technically the Lutz Hills is not a legally recognized boundary unless the county adopts a zoning district for it. Woodbury County doesn't. And actually the landform area is pretty large. It's not just for the bluffs. And to make a long story short, I reached out to the Lutz Hills Alliance, to the Iowa DNR, the conservation community, and asked them for a definition in a boundary description of the Lutz Hills. And so they provided me with one, and we added language to that wind farm ordinance that would basically, we're proposing a 1 mile setback distance from the outer perimeter of the eastern boundary of that landform area. And I mean, the landform area goes out as far as like near Mobile. And it encompasses basically all of Sioux City and a good swath of the county. And so what we did is we added language in there, and we proposed 1 mile, from that outer boundary. And basically, we added some, language to ensure the protections. And, yeah, so basically, that's pretty much it. I think it's better now.
That's 1 mile from the western edge.
Well, it's basically 1 mile from the boundary.
All around.
Whole area.
See, basic, back in, 03 or 04, when they had the other zoning plan that they brought forward, the Los Hills Alliance came up with a overlay district that they wanted to limit or regulate uses of the land within it. And it was an overlay map created that, like, they said, basically, see, it's with the 1 mile border around it, you're talking a third of the county is what it's gonna encompass. And the comment I would have there is a couple. Number one, the board of adjustment has to review these. The supervisors have to approve it. So they have an avenue to regulate where the wind farms go, the commercial wind farms. And I could see where there really isn't a lot of spotting, especially the bluff. The wind farm would really even work anyhow. The issue that I have is the last time when they did this, they included this overlay district to regulate some snag ground, residential, as far as homes that can be built, things like that too. So it encompassed several zoning districts and limited what could be done. And back then, the argument was that was a taking without compensation, because you're allowing this in a ag district here, but you're taking away that right from somebody in this ag district. So that would be the caution I would have to add this with an overlay that just broadly says you can't do this here. It's probably not going to really be an issue anyhow. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of wind farm, maybe out by Mobile or somewhere there could be one that would go and somebody be upset. But I know the last time when, the courthouse was full of people because they were upset about a taking that they weren't in favor of. And by putting this in there, does it open the door maybe for other avenues? Well, let's put this overlay district and apply it to housing.
Yeah.
Or to businesses. They can't farming, but there are other things that maybe down the road that could come into play and be a negative. And like I said, I'm not against preserving some of the stuff that I read through the Los Hills Alliance and their plan. And I'm in favor of a lot of what they want to do, but to sit there and put an overlay map and say, this is what it's going to be, and it's going to be a mile outside that, to me, the supervisors would, at that point, be recognizing this area as this overlay district, and will this come down the road to haunt us, or will I be sitting on this side of the table this time and have 500 people screaming at me because why did you do this? Like I said, I think there's enough ability to control and regulate where they go, because there are a lot of areas commercial wind farms shouldn't go in the hills. So I guess that's.
We had the county engineer's office, they made some maps, and what they did is they took that shape file that I got, from the Los Hills Alliance, and we put that landform area on Beacon, and then, we had them ping every rural address. So we put the shape file on the map, then we put a 1 mile buffer on it, and then we added another mile buffer on it, just to see what that would look like. And then what we did is we took every rural address on file, and we did a 600, a 1,000 foot, 1 mile, and a 2 mile that distance from each. And so you can see right here on that heat map, like if we did a 1 mile setback distance, that effectively would ban those wind turbines, because you can see down like in the Owego area, that's about the only place with 1 mile setback distance from a residential property. that's the only buildable area in the county. And, so we're gonna probably propose at least a 1,000 foot setback distance on rural properties. But that kind of gives you an example of the area that we would effectively be taking some people's ability to, you know, compensation rights or whatever, like you're talking about, Tom.
Well, and like I said, I think there's ways to do it without putting the actual overlay map into play, you know. I just see, I remember what people were mad about before, and I would hate to have that come up, because it's probably not ever gonna happen.
Yeah.
A commercial wind farm go in most of that area that's the overlay district anyhow, so.
Most of the wind data that we've seen from private developers and from, you know, the utility sector, basically, they all say, like, basically, no one from the utility or the private sector had any objections to adding this language with the Lusso, because they said, that's not where we're gonna go anyway.
Right, and that was kind of my argument, that to put the overlay map out there, and even though Joe Donovan is never a wind farm actually, but he's gonna see that you took away some of my rights. That was part of the argument that people had before. That's the only thing that I can see, if you just broadly apply it with the overlay map, that it could create some issues for the supervisors that they probably never would need to have created anyhow. You know, I'm not arguing, because I don't think it would fit anyhow. I don't think there's spots it's gonna go.
Yeah.
So it's probably not gonna be an issue, but to put that wordage in there and basically recognize an overlay map is what I.
Yeah, well, we're gonna meet with Joshua tomorrow, and so what we did, Level Up the Line, gave you some language from Fremont County, and, one of the, that was my initial reaction, to their request was, well, we can just create an overlay district and then just, you know, make them not allowed. But then, Joshua and Mark kind of reminded me, like, basically, what they're talking about, you have a lot of those people.
It seems like that, well, I guess when I think about the Lost Hills, and I guess the bluffs in the first 5 miles or so off the bluffs is pretty cool stuff. If you get out past, you know, look at the area on this map here, you get 5 or 7 miles out from the bluffs, it looks no different than the rest of Woodbury County as far as it's all farmland and houses and stuff like that. And so I didn't know the Lost Hill structure went out that far, but this, it seems like it's probably a bigger area than it needs to be. If I'm not gonna build on, it's not appropriate anyway from a wind standpoint, it doesn't matter. It just seems like it's probably, if we're trying to, if it's the preservation side, you know, still farming and business going up and stuff like that. The Highway 20 corridor is, at least the south side of it, will be launched from a lot of things that we're trying to preserve too.
And we'll still leave, private, wind turbines or, you know, the residential, sooner, turbines in the zoning, ordinance. And that would be, you know, approved through conditional use as it is right now. But.
And do they, I guess, did the Low Hills Alliance want a overlay recognized?
They asked for a boundary, protection. And so that's what I, you know, had to have Joshua determine or give his legal advice on. What I did is I wrote language in there that said that for purposes of this ordinance, whatever study that shape file came out of is what we recognize as Lost Hills. So that's.
But not actually as, the county hasn't recognized that as.
No, we're not.
And that's kind of what I'm getting at, is if they don't recognize a specific area and they just address to preserve the Lost Hills, and then they look at a case by case basis going forward, I don't know that as many people would have the issue there is if they actually create a boundary and say you're in this boundary.
It need to be like soil type, you know, that kind of stuff.
Well, like I said, I don't, if they put it in there that they recognize the need to preserve that natural, historic portion of the county is there, but not specifically defining the area. And then the case by case basis, when it comes up, that, now it's not really the right spot to put this and deny approval for that reason, as long as the language is there that your goal is to preserve that natural resource.
We actually, I stripped some from the 2005 county's comprehensive development plan and put that, language in the whereas section of the wind farm ordinance. So right in the very beginning section, is, you know, whereas the Woodbury County supervisors, you know, blah, 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 recognize, two goals out of the comprehensive plan, and that's relating to the land use goals and the Loess Hills land formation, and then the economic development goal of renewable energy and, private landowner compensation. I should have bought that with us.
Well, and that's, is one of the, I think it's, I don't know, mission statement or whatever, but where they, to preserve the natural the existence of the natural prairie of the Loess Hills. And like, yeah, alluded to before, you know, you get a certain distance from the bluff that's been farmed for 100 years, so that prairie is there. Their goal is to preserve. And that's kind of where the map extends out maybe beyond its, or the overlay extends out beyond what boundaries probably should. And I don't even like to say boundaries, because even if it's 2 miles out, somebody might argue, I shouldn't be in here. Yeah, be included in this. And that's why I was saying, if there's a way to do it without creating an overlay that there's broadly covers everything. And like I said, I don't think in 20 years, there's gonna be a wind farm that's gonna come into that area.
What Fremont County did is they basically said from like 838 north to whatever, you know, and I tried to get a roadway description that would hug the outer boundary of that, and I tried to incorporate that, and I don't think that worked. And so I tried to keep it vague, kind of like what you're talking about, Tom, with the definition of Loess Hills and Woodbury. For that definition, in the ordinance, it says like, you know, any loess soil in Woodbury County. It's pretty vague, but we reference the mapping on Beacon as well, without saying it's a specific layer. So I don't know, I'm gonna have Joshua take a look at it. I think that the way that it's written, it will work, without creating a conservation overlay district. And, I don't think we'll have to mess around with the regular zoning ordinances.
Yeah, that's, I guess I can see where it's just the wording and no overlay district created, that would be the fear. So that was a suggestion you said from Loess Hills Alliance, was to create an overlay district, but the supervisor said.
No, that was my initial thought was, oh, you know, when they said, well, can you add some stuff? I said, well, that's easy, you know, I mean, number one, they're probably never gonna go there anyways. Number two, we could just create an overlay district and then, I mean, not allowed. That idea was kind of shot down internally, and then so we're coming up with this other way to describe it and reference the visual reference, without making it specific to a legal description or something like that.
Tom, the meeting that you described many years ago, where people are upset, was there an overlay district then?
Yes, they had, in the plan, they had the Loess Hills overlay district.
And so,
And they said, within this district, you can't do this, this, and this. And it was this basic same map, and it included, you know, it went residential, houses couldn't be built if there was a slope that exceeded X, and
so I understand what you're saying. Just
that's what
take it back
people
to
can get upset going forward if they, well, that's what they tried to do before. That's all I would caution the supervisors to not create a district that encompasses something that the wording is in there to try to preserve and protect. That's different than this is a district and you can't do this.
Yeah.
That's the only comment, I guess, or the strongest comment I would make. It'd be hard to, 5 years from now, and somebody take it off because you took away my right because I'm in this area. Just so the supervisors don't have to go down that road again and fight a backlash. I mean, I don't know, I guess I'll quit talking.
No, you're making a lot of sense.
That's the caution I would have.
Yeah, no, I'm glad.
I see what you're saying, overlay, and it would work well, but it's also including people in a area that they're feel like they could be losing their rights.
And it's good to have somebody on the board that remembers these things.
Getting older, I'm starting to forget.
History.
Chris, did you have anything to add for that?
Well, I think the other thing to be concerned about is that we weren't aware of this until I got an email from Don Schneider from the Los Hills Alliance. And then it sounds like there's zoning changes that are being proposed that we weren't involved with. And so my concern is what's going on and what is the impetus for this?
Did you repeat that?
What was your last question? We didn't hear it.
What was the impetus for the change in the language for Los Hills and the overlay map?
What was the impetus for the change and what else is going on with the new changes?
Just, basically, once we put it out there for public comment, it's the comment we've received. So we've got some comment from private utilities, from private sector, from renewable energy companies. I guess that's just what we've received, so far. So that's what the process is for. We have 3 public hearings so we can amend if necessary, and adopt, comments and recommendations. And ultimately, it's the board of supervisors that will, decide. We can recommend whatever.
Does it come before the commissioners then or the supervisors?
What's that?
Does it come before the supervisors or the commissioners?
The, there's the,
Final product,
Change in the language.
it's the board of supervisors.
Say that again, Dave.
It's the board of supervisors. It's, not a part of the regular zoning ordinance. And so, it's basically just, 3 public hearings with the board of supervisors and, effective upon, the published date. So we're actually in the public hearing process with the supervisors. Tomorrow is the 2nd public hearing.
So how does this occur that it doesn't come before the zoning commissioners before it comes to the supervisors?
You guys saw this. You guys saw the ordinance.
Chris, I think I get what she's saying. The change and addition of the Los Hills issue, I think is what she's talking about, that wasn't in our wind tower packets that we reviewed. I think that's what she's talking about. That's added because of the request from somebody from the Los Hills Alliance and didn't come before us. And I assume that's what Chris is driving at that.
That's part of it, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if you heard, but when when the zoning commission saw the draft, at that time, we did not think about or consider any additional language for the Los Hills as a public conservation area. Because technically, it's not a public conservation area. And like I said, we looked at, a number of different wind farm ordinances at the county level across the state. 600 feet was the most restrictive of them all. That's what we adopted for conservation areas. And then, we didn't talk about the Russ Hills. So once it was brought up, then we reacted. I mean, that's the best way I can answer that.
But then the process goes through the zoning commission, not the supervisor, typically, doesn't it?
No.
If it was a major difference, a major portion of the packet, would that go back to the zoning commission? Or
No, I mean, we asked for your guys' input as part of that process, and, I don't think it's practical to go back with every revision or, suggestion you're running through everybody having to went through. I mean, I don't mean to sound disrespectful or anything like that, but it's just, as far as the logistics of product, it's the board of supervisors ordinance, and so we're already in that process. We reviewed it with you folks, we didn't discuss it or it wasn't identified, so, I think we just move on and try to adapt and overcome as things are, brought to our attention.
I think, as far as like you said, any change in the zoning ordinance, stuff is done by the supervisors. If it's a rezoning map, then the zoning board would review that.
Correct.
But not even this is a new ordinance to add, is not required to be approved. We make a recommendation, they review it, but it's not required to come before us.
Correct. Pretty much, as a standalone ordinance under the home rule, code, section of the Iowa code, basically the required hearings are with the supervisors, and that process is basically with them. But if the zoning commission would like to add any comments or suggestions, we can take that now and report that during the public hearing. Or if, the chair would like to attend or make comments on behalf of the board for the rest of the commission, or if anybody would like to come,
I guess that'd be the thing I'd like to go on record is the fact that I want to be recommending any approval of a overlay district or creating a zone border that's gonna handle that with the board of adjustment and their approval of the individual.
Yep, that makes sense.
And that would eliminate a lot of possibilities to anger people down the road.
Are there any commissioners or, board supervisors that were present when Parade Town's talking about? Because they might not see that coming, and so I think that's
I
good.
think Mark Munson would have been involved with that stuff at one time, but I don't know if he was on the board.
Yeah, he's a big one.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think he did, what was he, 2 terms?
yeah, and that's the only person that's currently on the board that would, and that's the only recommendation that I'd like to make is for that reason, that don't, because that presented a lot of problems in the past.
Well, okay, this is Chris, and historically, I agree with Tom, but there are 3 out of 5 commissioners that are blindsided by this issue. And I don't know that the Board of Adjustment is even familiar with this. So I think the lack of communication on what's coming up or what's going on, it's huge. And the only way I was informed of it is because I'm on the conservation board.
I guess I'd point out Chris alerted me, I didn't know any other one, but she gave me a shout out. just
Yeah.
so I had an idea of what was going on.
An email communication of an update or big changes.
Yeah, we can do that.
You know, I mean, hard to comment if we don't know what's happening.
Sure.
And a lot of that too, would, you know, I'm sure you didn't even realize that this would be a big issue or could be. But
To be honest with you, no, I mean, like I said, it's really just sort of a PR move. I feel like, you know, basically, we want to keep our stakeholders, you know, satisfied and happy and make them feel engaged. And, you know, obviously that's why we're adding the language. But yeah, to be honest with you, it was not really on our radar as far as the work we were drafting it. So it wasn't an intentional deal to not, you know, report every suggested revision or amendment that we're working on. So I apologize for that, Chris. I feel like we're, you know, intentionally trying to leave you in the dark or not.
Well, with all due respect, not knowing what's going on is, especially with the new commissioners on the board and not knowing the history of it, kind of takes them off guard.
Noted.
Are there any other comments? Questions? Okay, hearing none, I think we're to the point where we can adjourn, if we're to that point.
Yes, ma'am. I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Meeting's been adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Next time
Have
I'll
a good
close the-
evening.